and the bowls go for the last couple of hours. Remember that now? Say yes or no. Well, you're the only ones here. They're the only ones I can pick on. Sorry, but at least I'll have fun picking at you, right? Revelation 6 basically starts the tribulation period with the opening of the first 6 seals. The first 4 seals were the 4 horsemen. Remember the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and the pale horse. And then came the martyrs and their prayers saying, God, when are you going to come down on these people? And then the earthquake is when they did come down on the people. So that was Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 7 was a respite between the 6th seal and the 7th seal, where 144,000 Israelite witnesses were separated out and sealed, and they are going to be evangelists during this whole 3.5 years. And you can't kill them and power. Then Revelation 8, 9, and a bit of 11 talks about the 7th seal opens to the 7 trumpets. The first 6 trumpets are observed. And like I say, the trumpets are all in the last few months of the 7 years. Get it? And then Revelation 10 and 11 is again a respite between the 6th trumpet and the 7th trumpet, where the little scroll, God was given a little scroll to eat, and sweet in his mouth and sour in his stomach. And then chapter 11 was the 2 witnesses in Jerusalem. It started at the 3.5 year period, and they would be witnessing during the entire time. Revelation 12 is what we did last time, vision of heaven, with the woman, the child, the red dragon, Michael in heaven fighting Michael in heaven fighting Satan and his demons. And then Revelation 13 is what I'm going to talk about a little bit today later, and introduce you to the Antichrist with 7 heads and the false prophet. But we'll get to that in a second. But what I want to do now is to review all of this in the pictures that we've seen. So I'm going to do this in the pictures that we've already seen. And at the end of this class, I can email you all the pictures at one time. You can go through it and review it if you wanted to. Okay. Did you catch all that? Are you learning all this? There'll be a test in 2 weeks. What? It's on. Is it on? You have to plug it in.
I think it's broken or something.
Oh, okay. Well, that's wonderful. Okay. Now, all right. Now, let's see. Start up again. Start up again. Do you want to turn the power off? No. Oh, there we go. Okay. Here we go. Let's do this together. This is all the slides at one time. All right, this is how we started. Lesson 1, the rise of man. Did you see this one before? You did. See, this is what modern man thinks. He's a product of evolution. Maybe you do remember. See, millions and billions of years old. This is what modern man, Obama.
I didn't see this one, but I've seen this thing before about moon pieces.
The head's about Obama.
All right, and this is the biblical view of man, that from the fall over on the high left, you see the flood, the first coming of Jesus Christ, today, the tribulation period which is coming, second coming of Jesus Christ, the millennium, destruction by fire, the white throne. From every period, saints are being pulled out. We are already pulled out because we're saved. From every period, you see the saints being collected, and that's the redemption of Jesus Christ. That's the biblical view of man. And this compares the two. Lesson 2. What's next for me? What's going to happen to me? Well, if you're a believer, it's heaven. If you're an unbeliever, it's hell. There is no in between. Everyone's going to die unless we get raptured, and then it's either heaven or hell. There's no in between. There's no other religion. There's no other explanation. That's what the Bible says. People don't want to listen to that. That's all right. When the rapture does come, everyone that's living and everyone that has died in Christ will be called up to the Lord, who will come in a cloud with the trumpet blast. The scriptures behind them. Everyone who has not received Christ in his heart. I mean, I think there's a lot of people sitting in the church that look like they're Christians. They haven't got it at the heart level. And God is not fooled because he knows our hearts. Everyone who's not a Christian in the heart and dies will go to the second death and be consumed in flames. Those are big flames. Lesson 3 was the timeline. See? The 6,000 years from creation, 1,000, the flood, and Noah, see, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, 2,000, Moses, the Ten Commandments, and King David about 3,000 years ago, northern and southern kingdom, complicated, exile to Babylon, Jesus, 4,000 years, into creation 2,000 years ago. That's the beginning of the church age, comes with Jesus, which is also the beginning of the end times with Jesus. That's the New Testament and the Old Testament times. So that's a review of that. There's little fishies on the sea, and the Dinosaurus over there on the 6th day. And the rains came down, and the rains came up, and everyone was killed. Maybe 8 to 10 billion people were killed at one time.
I'm surprised you didn't put floating people.
Huh?
I'm surprised you didn't put your floating people.
Floating on top of the water,
No, underneath the water.
underneath the water. You don't know what he's talking about?
Like,
The floating dead people.
like drowning.
Well, let me ask you this
Or like
question.
just
See, that's not a bad question. What do you think it was like when Noah got off the ark? You think it was just peaceful and all the birds were flying and all this and that? The earth
No.
must have been completely ravaged. There must have been dead bodies everywhere. Think about it. Animals and people. Yeah, all right. So there's Sodom and Gomorrah. There's Lot's wife looking back, turned into a pillar of salt. And that's the story of Joseph. You know the story of Joseph, don't you, a little bit? Joseph, there he is in the well, finally in prison. Potiphar's wife made a play for him. 7 years plenty, 7 years famine. Everybody bowed down to him. And finally Jacob's whole family on the right over there moves to Egypt. And that's where the Jews went from 70 people to 2.5 million when Moses came along. And there they are, coming out through the Red Sea. Angel of the Lord inside the cloud, separating the Israelites on the right from the Egyptians on the left. And you know what happened. There's Moses up there. I think Aaron was up there too. God gives the law to Moses. There's the rapture again. In lesson 4, we start talking about predictions or prophecies, and all the way from Genesis 3:15, where Satan would bruise the heel of the Lord, and the Lord would crush his head on the bottom. That's the crucifixion and the resurrection. That's happened, right? And then there's my nativity scene at the top left, and the birth of Jesus, little baby, crucifixion, John the Baptist preaching, Messiah, a light to the Gentiles, and the triumphal entry, Zechariah. I listened to 49 one-hour sermons on the book of Zechariah. 1-hour sermons, 49. And it was fantastic. All about the future. And this is something I'm going to get into a little bit next time, but of the 70 weeks predicted for Daniel, after 69 weeks, the Messiah was the triumphal entry. And this over here on the right, you notice that's the first Antichrist. Okay? The Antichrist that I have on the board over there with the 7 heads, that's a different Antichrist. But he was prefigured. That's a word that they use to mean that something happened, and then it was a mirror of something that's going to happen later. The Antichrist of the 7-year tribulation period was prefigured by this Antichrist, which was a couple hundred years before Christ. So we might want to take a look at that next time. All right, and then we've got the line to Jesus through David, Kings, Solomon, and then the line to Jesus through Nathan to Mary, his humanity and his deity. And this is what Jesus said about himself. He would be flogged, mocked, flogged, crucified, and resurrected. Predictions that have come true, see? So that's our introduction to Revelation. I mean, it's quick and fast, but it's kind of cool. And then we have the book of Revelation, from God to Jesus Christ, given to an angel who gives it to John. That's what happens. That's what John sees. John is, the angel talks to him from God. And Jesus calling himself the Alpha and the Omega, both in the early chapters and in the end. If you have an ear to listen, listen. It says that a number of times, so I figured we should look at an ear. And then the criticisms of the first churches, the 7 churches, the 2 that were found to be cool, the faithful church Philadelphia, and the faithful and persecuted church Smyrna, and then the 5 other churches, Ephesus, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, and Laodicea. You lost your first love, loveless. Ephesus church. A church that doesn't love, what do you think that looks like? That's a church that doesn't give a damn about anybody. Right? Mm-hmm. And you can find people like that in your own church and elsewhere. In the Pergamos church, the compromising church. And you can find that in the church. We have that in this church. We have people who believe so strongly in science that they will abandon the Bible and what it says about stuff. I've talked to them. Then Thyatira has to do with the Jezebel, sensual, the immoral church. Lots of that in other churches. I don't know about here. The Sardis church is a wealthy, busy church who are dead. And the Laodicea is a church that is not even a church in the sense of Christians. It's apostate, legalism, cults. And so my conclusion, and I'll just leave this as mine, and not say it's biblical, but mine, that you can find all 7 of these examples in any church. There are people that are dead, there are people that are persecuted, there are people that are faithful, people that are lovely, compromises, sexually immoral. Okay? So Jesus' depiction of the churches is a real good understanding of the way the church is today. Lesson 6. God in heaven. God, the 4 creatures, the 24 elders, the torches representing the ministries of the Holy Spirit, and the lamps down there representing the churches. And then all around are the angels. There we are that again. From Ezekiel's point of view, you see God above, a rainbow above him, and this fire coming out from him, and the 4 living creatures with 4 faces and a wheel. Have you ever read that in Ezekiel chapter 1? Have you ever? No? Okay. Well, maybe one day before the rapture. And here's the elders casting their crowns before Jesus. This is Revelation 4. And I consider that to be the raptured church, the 24 elders, because they have crowns. It's the only people that have ever been given crowns are believers. But a lot of people don't believe this, and that's okay with me. Now, here we go with the timing of the judgments. Again, get this down. Of the 7 years, the seals occur over a period of the first 6 years or so, 5.5. The trumpets in the last month, see the 7 trumpets? And the 7 bowls at the very end, the last couple of hours. See, this is really important to get this down in your head. Once you got it, you got it. It really helps understand the whole flow. There it is again, imagine that. And that's the outline of the entire outline of the 6 through 19 is the tribulation period. Okay, there's the 4 horsemen. There's my little horsies. Aren't they nice? They're white horsey, they're red horsey, they're black horsey. They're horsey. All right. Famous picture of the 4 horsemen of the Acropolis. The one on the bottom, you notice the skeleton? He's the pale horse. Yeah, and he's probably. And there's the 5th seal, which is the tribulation martyrs crying out to the Lord, when will you avenge our blood? The Lord says, just wait a little while longer. It's my vengeance. The 6th seal is actually the beginning of the day of Revelation. This is when the Lord really starts to bring heavy stuff down on everybody. That's 8. There's God in heaven again. And then here, angels are holding back trouble so the 144,000 witnesses can get sealed off. They are going to be the witnesses in the world. Okay? Angel in the sun. And Gentile witnesses for Christ during that time. So during this terrible tribulation period, there's going to be lots of witnesses for Christ. 9 is that again. There's that again. And then we have the 7 trumpets. 6 of them are open. 1/3 of the vegetation is burned up. 1/3 of the sea becomes blood. 1/3 of the rivers become blood. The sun, the moon, and the stars fall to earth. Demons released from the pit, but men cannot die. 200 million demons are released from the Euphrates and will kill 1/3 of all of mankind. And I have made a picture of the angel, actually it's the devil, going into the pit as a key to the pit and bringing out the, what?
We have a technical problem. I need either Cody or Robert for just 1 minute because I can't get this thing to work.
All right, go ahead, Cody.
And I have checked everyone else and no one else.
It's okay, honey. Go ahead, Cody, go help her.
I'm sorry.
All right.
That is not my kid. And there's no one else yellow.
All right, so here's the devil going down to the pit and getting all these demons that will come out and give man a lot of problems. And then the 6th trumpet, the 200 demons will be released from the Euphrates, and 1/3 of all of mankind will be wiped out. Lesson 10. Seen that before? Seen that before? I keep explaining it. And here's an angel, an unusual angel, giving John a little book, and he's supposed to eat it, and it's sweet in his stomach, but sour in his, sweet in his mouth, but sour in his stomach. And that represents the gospel and the destruction for unbelievers. And then the 2 witnesses, thought to be Moses and Elijah, although it doesn't say that. They are killed by the beast, but then they come back to life and they're taken up to God. They will be witnesses for 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years. So there's lots of witnesses for Christ during this terrible time. You fix it already? What a kid. Lesson 11 is what we did last time. There are the girls. Were you here for this one? All right, so I just explained how women are used symbolically to express things. The wife of Israel is God. The wife of God is Israel. Jezebel, we saw that back in Revelation 2. The harlot, which has to do with false religions, the mother of false religion, 17, and the bride of Christ, 19. And we are the bride of Christ. And there's Michael, the archangel, Gabriel, who's talking to Mary there, called the Annunciation. And remember this one? Israel in heaven gives birth to the Messiah. The Messiah is caught up to God. The woman that flees in the wilderness, and the attack by the red dragon trying to kill the baby. This is in heaven. And then also in heaven, Michael goes to war with Satan and his angels and wins that battle and throws Satan and his angels to earth, where they attack Israel and unbelievers. And here's the red dragon. And all those heads, those 7 kingdoms, Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia and the Medes, the Greeks, these are all peoples that have dominated the world and dominated Israel. Rome at the time of Jesus is the Rome that killed him, right? The Jews and the Romans killed him. But then there's a Rome to come. The Rome to come is what's going to be in the tribulation period. We're going to have 10 kings, Europe, 10 crowns, European. And I don't necessarily know that it's going to be out of Rome. It's just called the Rome to come. Okay, lesson 12 is what we covered before. Imagine that. All right, you got it? We covered this, the introduction, and that's that. All right, and again, here's the red dragon, discussed in chapter 12. The red dragon is Satan. Satan is going to empower 2 people. So that's what I want to just stop with this for a second and have you look at the board. All right? Okay? Satan is going to empower the Antichrist. The Antichrist is a person. The false prophet is a person. Actually, Satan is a person too, but he has no physical form. He's a spirit, like an angel. Okay? And he's going to empower the Antichrist, called the beast out of the sea, and the false prophet, the beast out of the land. Going to have 7 heads. It represents those 7 heads right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But you notice right here, it's actually 8 heads. Because one of the heads is going to be mortally wounded. Mortally means to die, and then come back to life. Actually, that's the Antichrist. So there's 8 heads. He will be the 8th head. This Antichrist is a brilliant political, economic, and military leader. He will make war upon Israel and the saints. Now, huh? What? No, that's not Obama. The false prophet, I drew his head here with little horns, like little horns of a lamb, like a baby lamb that has little horns right here. It seems like it's harmless, but he's not harmless. He's going to be probably the greatest preacher ever. He's going to pull everybody in, a great preacher. You ever think of any great preachers? Like Billy Graham or somebody who really pulls a lot of people in? Well, this false prophet is going to pull a lot of people in. The most persuasive preacher ever. But he speaks like a dragon. He has little horns like he's meek and mild, but he speaks like a dragon. And his whole trip is to get everybody to worship the Antichrist. He causes people to worship the Antichrist. He performs signs and wonders. He's going to make an image of the beast, meaning the Antichrist, an image, a statue. But then he's going to cause it to speak. He can do signs and wonders. He will deceive many people. He will cause all the followers of the beast, meaning the Antichrist, to wear the number 666 on their foreheads or on their right hand. 666 is man's number. Everyone that doesn't wear that will be hunted down and killed. Not all of them, but most of them will be hunted down, and they won't be able to buy and sell anything. So, I'm introducing in Revelation 13 the Antichrist and the false prophet. It is an unholy trinity. It is an unholy trinity. Now, here. So, this is, again, the beast out of the sea, the Antichrist, 7 heads. He's got 7 heads, and he's got 10 crowns, which are going to be the 10 European nations that will come around him. They won't last long. They're only going to be given power for about an hour. The light's not working right, is it? Okay, whatever. And one of the heads is going to, actually, 3 of them are going to go down, and then one of them is going to come up. Don't have to get into that. Deception, fatal wound, healed. Okay, and then the next one, and the last one, is the false prophet. See all these things I have written about him? Causes men to worship the Antichrist, fakes the death and resurrection of the Antichrist, fakes it. Speaks threatening words, a one-world religion, sets up an idol and causes it to speak. Places the number 666 on the foreheads or the right hands of the followers of the Antichrist. Responsible for the persecution of Israel and believers, the false prophet. So, that's it. Revelation. Okay, that's it. All right. So, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you get it? I mean, do you have any questions about it, or you know all this? Huh? Goats. Yeah, it's got little bumps like a goat, a baby goat. Yeah. Sheeps. Sheeps don't have horns. Sheep don't have horn. All right. So, any questions? No questions. You got this. You got this, right? You ready for a test? Look at her eyes. Her eyes just went. No. Okay. Well, you're dismissed then. Brian's not here today, so grab an apple or some cheese and take it easy. And if anybody wants to talk about anything, I'll be happy to.